On September 7th of 2023, I came roughly to this spot at Zuma Beach for an end of the year work picnic, and I just finished up a banjo build, so I thought I'd bring it with me to shoot video of it while I was out in such a nice scenic spot. So after the picnic, I said goodbye to everyone. I went back to my car to get the banjo to start filming, and the banjo was not there. Yep, I lost this banjo. I was in such a hurry that I left it propped up against the back of the car and drove off without it, and when I came back it was gone. So, huge bummer. That was 6 months ago now, but here's what I'm pretty sure happened on that day. I walked up to the car with my arms full of stuff, propped the banjo up against the back of the car, loaded everything else in, and I was in such a hurry and so distracted that I slammed the car door shut, walked around and drove away, leaving the banjo to clatter to the ground, where it sat for hours until somebody picked it up. I put up a bunch of signs with my info, but the signs were not effective for their intended purpose.
It's actually very sad.
I'm very sorry. It was very sad. If someone thought it was free, then.
Nobody ever called or emailed me. I went around to pawn shops. I checked on OfferUp and Craigslist. Couldn't find it. So that was pretty depressing because I really liked that banjo. But anyway, I'm putting this picture up in the workshop so I have a reference photo, and I'm going to rebuild it. I've got this gourd which pretty closely resembles the old one. And then I've got the other half of the curly maple, so it's from the same piece of wood as the old one, and I've got another piece of padauk, which this piece of padauk is actually an even darker, nicer color of red than the last one. I'm using my nice gourd cutting saw to cut this off. It's always tough with these bottle gourds to kind of know exactly where the best spot to cut them is. And once I had a flat edge on it, I took it over to my brand new table saw and figured why not give it a whirl. This is probably kind of dangerous, and I don't think I should have done this in retrospect, but it kind of worked, and yeah. I've been using this wire brush to clean out the insides of the gourds lately. It's really nice. It makes it really easy. And I didn't fiberglass this entire gourd. I just put fiberglass around where the sound hole and the dowel stick holes are going to be, just to give it a little extra reinforcement. Oh, it makes me kind of nervous cutting into really nice wood like this curly maple. This curly maple I got from the Amish back in New York. I brought it out here when I moved out here like 2.5 years ago, and it's been sitting in my garage for a long time. It's from John Schwartz and Truber, so it's one of my grandpa's Amish friends. They hooked me up with some pretty crazy deals on wood when I'm over there. And here I'm just roughing out the peg head shape freehand. I don't have any plans or anything because I always just kind of wing it, which in this case, when I'm trying to replicate a banjo, makes it harder on me. But yeah, I got pretty close to the same peg head style as the last one. I think this one's a little straighter and more symmetrical, where the other one was a little more lopsided, which I liked about the other one, but that type of thing is pretty tough to recreate since it was an accident in the first place. Now I'm cutting this padauk. This padauk was kind of a pain to work with this time. You can see all that red dust. It just got everywhere and it turned everything red. Now I'm doing the glue up, and I'm gluing on the padauk peg head overlay. That's why I cut that peg head so thin, is because it's going to have this big thick overlay on it. Now I'm back at the table saw trying to cut out the back plate for the back side of the gourd, and this didn't go very well for me on the table saw. I need one of those, I forget what they're called, but there's just too big of a gap. It's called like a zero clearance or something. People will make things for their table saw where there's no gap between the saw and the table, but I don't have that, so my work was falling right through the crack, and I ended up just cutting them out on the bandsaw, which was too bad because now that I finally have a table saw, I just want to use it for everything. I did get to use the table saw for the glue up, though. I just sort of used the fence to press it against the blade, which honestly probably isn't great for the blade. I didn't press it that hard, but yeah, that's how I did the glue up for this. And on the last banjo, when I did this back plate, I didn't reinforce it in any way, but for whatever reason, this time I decided to put these little tack ends in the wood and use that in the glue up, and it actually helped me align it. And I liked doing that. I think it gives me more confidence in the bond, because if it was wood on wood, I wouldn't have any trouble trusting that bond. But like the wood on the gourd glue up, I'd rather have something in there providing extra reinforcement. And this sort of backplate design I sort of ripped from Has Frets, who's a really good gourd banjo builder. When he does bottle gourd banjos, I always see really nice pictures of this type of backplate, so I pretty much copied that from him. Then I just coated the inside with shellac, drilled up the sound hole. The tuning pegs are where everything kind of slows down on the build. It's sort of a long process. I kind of miss the days when I used to just buy violin pegs and stick them in there. But I don't know. I really like to make my own pegs because it gives it a unique look. And I'm not very good of a carver, so it gives it kind of a, a more homemade sort of look, which I think is an aesthetic I like, rather than like everything being really straight and really machined and really like equal looking. I like this sort of more homemade style look of things, especially for this banjo. And I filmed a little bit of shaping the neck. I usually don't film a lot of shaping the neck, partly because I just get in the zone when I do that, and it's also just a long process. But yeah, here's a couple time lapses of that, although you can't really see it because my body's blocking it. And here's another time lapse of me sanding it. This is a really long part of the process. This is always like one of the slowest parts of the process as well. And it was especially tough on this one because, like I mentioned earlier, that really dark Padauk wood would sand off and get in all the pores of the really light colored maple, and it would sort of almost dye the maple. So I had to like try to sand them separately and try to keep them apart, and it was pretty tough. And on the finished piece, you can actually see a slight bit of red tint kind of crossing over onto the maple, which I didn't like at first, but it's kind of grown on me. You might be able to see it later on in the video in some close-ups. Now I'm on to the most nerve-wracking part of the process for me, which is fitting the neck to the gourd, because if I mess this up, there's really no going back. And this is always a super satisfying point when I finally do get the neck fitted, because then you can actually see how the banjo is going to look. This is my plug cutter that I made out of filing out teeth in a leather stamp, and I decided to sharpen it for the first time, which was actually a great idea because it worked way better. I tried using mineral oil to lubricate instead of water too. And I'm using maple plugs at the 3rd, 5th, 7th, 10th, and 12th frets. It's really hard with maple plugs because if you burn them at all, it looks kind of ugly. But they're looking pretty nice. Now I'm using teak oil. I'm using a teak oil finish on this. I do a couple coats of teak oil, and then I'll go in and put a few coats of shellac on the neck afterwards, but I'll just leave teak oil on the fingerboard so it's a more natural feeling finish. And sorry, my angle for skinning up the gourd isn't very good here, but I'm using a piece of skin that I actually initially used on the original Gourd 13. It was the lower skin, and now I'm using it as the upper skin on this. So I'll show a shot. You can actually see the pencil mark that I used to mark the bridge position on the original Gourd 13 before I reskinned the head of it and before I lost it. So that's a nice little connection between this and the original. Yeah, I'm just drilling out the tuning pegs and stringing it up for the first time. I don't think I filmed it, but I put a ebony pip in there. So here it is. I'm up on somewhere around Zuma Canyon. I'm up where I was originally going to film the playing video of the old banjo that got lost. So right down there's the beach that I filmed the first part of this video on. And yeah, here it is. So I hiked all the way up here. It was quite a hike, and I walked for the first time on some trails that I worked on. So I passed a couple drains that I dug, and this was the first trail that I ever brushed that I came up. So that was cool. And yeah, here's the banjo. I won't go over everything with it because I think I've already done that, but this is a really cool banjo. In some ways it's better than the original one. Like I like how there's more of a scoop here, just the way the shape of this gourd is. Yeah, so this would be a good banjo for someone who's got like a shorter reach and likes a brighter sound. So yeah, really happy with it. I ended up taking this banjo to another location just to prove that I learned my lesson and I can take it on trips with me without losing it. But yeah, I hope whoever found my Gourd Banjo 13 on the street, I hope they're enjoying it. I hope it found its way into the hands of someone that'll do something with it. Hopefully it didn't just get run over by a car and like thrown in a dumpster. That's probably the most likely scenario. But yeah, it was pretty sad to lose it, especially after putting so much work into it. But it is kind of funny at the same time, and it makes for a good video. Here's a couple more songs on it before I end this thing. up here on I'm on Palomar Mountain. It's in the Santa Ana Mountains. There's a big observatory up here. It's super cool. Definitely check it out if you live around the Southern California area. And yeah, brought this thing up here for a little test run again. But anyway, yeah, Palomar Mountain, cool spot. Thanks for watching. Like I never lost it, sort of. This is a really endangered species of milk vetch that there's a ton of them up here, but yeah, there used to be way more of these up here too last summer. I think something happened to some of them. There's a couple dead ones that I passed. But yeah, pretty cool. What's over here?